we're back.
We are back. Salt and pepper.
I will say, before we get started, I do want to say one thing. We got sent our first free shit through the mail.
Ooh, free shit.
Yeah, we got some K-Balm CBD relief oil, or cream. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm holding it up so you can see it. This is what it looks like. Kind of comes in a cool thing where you know what I like about this, because I've used it a little bit, is you don't have to get your hands messy while using it. You just
you can apply it straight
you apply it straight from here. It's like almost like a chapstick thing where you get it up and then
you just rub it on. So because I've never used CBD cream before. You just rub it where it hurts. I see it. I see it perfect.
K-Balm Relief CBD. Yeah, you just rub it. Yeah, it's like any type of pain relieving cream, icy hot, same type of thing. You just rub it on the spot and it's supposed to be good. This one actually is a little bit different because I've used CBD creams. This one has menthol in it, which
so you get that cooling sensation.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, it's nice. I've been using it after my bullpens and been feeling good. So there's our little plug, our first plug. We appreciate K-Balm for sending this out to us. And, there's your shout-out. Well, they didn't give me, there's not, an agreement of what's supposed to happen.
No,
I just said, we'll shout you out if I like it.
I thought that was a great first product plug.
Thank you. So speaking of CBD pain relief, how about Major League Baseball free agency, huh?
Dude, you know who needs some CBD pain relief?
Cubs fans.
Wilson Contreras. I said Wilson. Is it William? It's William, right?
No, it's Wilson, right?
No, it's Wilson. His brother's William?
I don't know his whole family. I know his name is Wilson Contreras.
Well, his brother was in the big leagues.
Now you're making me think it's not Wilson Contreras. It's Wilson Contreras, right? So you're making me second guess it now. I always thought it was.
I'm doing a Google. Google.
Okay.
I think it's William.
It's definitely not William. I know.
I think it's Wilson.
It's Wilson Contreras. Maybe we'll send him some K-Balm.
God, I really got to start just trusting my gut on these things.
Yeah,
it was
tough.
Wilson.
There's so many players,
and I make so many mistakes.
Yeah. But, all right.
Anyway.
Major League Free Agency, I know it was a little bit ago, but, we've both been busy. We haven't been able to talk about it. And so I kind of like to talk about it. There's a couple different angles, obviously. A lot of different movement, a lot of star player movement. I guess we could start maybe just off the bat. Do you think that's good for the game, that so many stars are being traded, and that the trade deadline sparks so much intrigue into the season?
You know what? I'm gonna say yes. I think there's definitely. I think it's one of those things. There's good and bad sides to it, right?
Right.
But it has been exciting. It's exciting to see these guys in new uniforms. These game changing season altering players going to different spots. I was gonna say, who's your favorite?
Who's my favorite for personal reason, or who I think was the best move for the team that got him?
Your personal, as a fan, who do you enjoy seeing in their new spot the most?
Well, biasedly, Max Scherzer with the Dodgers, because I'm a pitcher and I'm a Max Scherzer fan, and I think if they already weren't the favorite, the Dodgers are, I think, the best team in baseball. So the idea that he can win another World Series as a fan of his and Kershaw's, that excites me, even though I'm not really a Dodgers fan. But and they got, the funny thing about that trade is earlier in the day, obviously you're not in San Diego right now, but it was reported that the Padres were closing in on Scherzer. And the way it was reported was essentially that it was basically a done deal. And so then I went to practice to coach all these kids that are huge Padre fans, and everyone's like, we got Scherzer. And from the second I saw it, I was like, the fact that the wording is they're closing in, to me, came off as though the Nationals had basically leaked that to try to get more from maybe a rival team like the Dodgers. And I was like, by the end of the day, the Dodgers are ending up with Max Scherzer. That's my take from early in the morning when I first saw the Padres story. I was like, something about this just seems to me that this was a way to get more from the Dodgers. And then, obviously, what happened is that's literally what happened.
That's exactly what happened.
But also that they were able to get Trey Turner in it. How Trey Turner then became a part of it. I was like, what? I don't understand how that became a part of it. And it was just such a to me, a big brother move on the Padres. of like not only are we taking the guy you wanted, but we're also adding an all-star caliber guy in Trey Turner to our already star-studded lineup.
Like, oh, you guys got that Frazier guy from Pittsburgh? Like, oh, that's cute.
Oh, and you want Scherzer? No, we're going to get Scherzer.
We'll get the Scherzer and the other all-star middle infielder.
Yeah, to go with our already all-star infield and outfield.
Yeah.
So from personal reasons, obviously I like the Scherzer move. But I think all the moves, sometimes there's moves of like star players being traded places where I'm like, the team that traded for him I don't really think was, I understand why you did it, but I don't think it makes that much of a difference in the whole landscape of, I think pretty much every move was like the team. I'm like, damn, that was a really good move for you. I mean, the Giants are obviously doing better than people thought, but like adding Chris Bryant to that in this, I'm like, damn, that's a really good move for them. Where the Mets are adding Javi Baez to go that middle infielder when Lindor comes back, I'm like, damn, that's a really good move for them. That's
going to be so fun,
right? And even like the Yankees are struggling right now, and then they get Anthony Rizzo in there and Joey Gallo. I'm like, damn, that could
big lefty bats that they haven't had.
I'm like, that could kind of swing some of the momentum that in the AL East. So I thought not only was it star guys moving, but it was like every move I was like, that's a really good move for that team. I feel like that was.
How about all three Cubs guys homering in their first game? I thought that was so cool.
I did see a guy, a San Diego kid, Trevor Williams, who was also part of the. He was with the Cubs and he was traded part of the trade or whatnot. He tweeted something. He's like, "Wow, a lot of pressure on my first at bat." And I think he got traded to the Mets.
That was funny. That's good. I don't think I've seen a ton of them, but I feel like Trevor Williams has consistently come out with like solid tweets.
Yeah,
it's like an underrated MLB personality.
Yeah, no, he's a funny guy. He went to a shitty high school, but he's a funny guy. But I just thought that was funny because it was like, every player was just going off in. And to my knowledge, not even now since their first game, they're still going off. They're because they're great players. I did see somebody tweet something. I was like, man, could you imagine all these guys on the same team?
There is this sense of like I didn't like. Obviously, when they won the World Series, I was like, God, the Cubs are so good.
Right.
And I never thought they weren't. Like, I never thought Javi had fallen off. I never thought Rizzo had fallen off. I never thought Bryant had fallen off. But I had kind of stopped appreciating how good they all were on the same team until they go somewhere else. And it's kind of like looking back now. I have to bring it up. It's like looking back and being like, damn, KD, Russ, and James Harden were on the same team.
Right.
Like, that's crazy.
Right.
It's like, I didn't appreciate that trio until they left. It was like, oh man, they were really good together.
Especially when they're all in their prime, because now it's becoming more popular where near the end of some people's careers they kind of team up. And like you said with the Dodgers, like they're not necessarily past their prime, but the idea of Scherzer and Kershaw in the same, pitching rotation is like kind of crazy to think, but they're not. They're both kind of near the end. More so. It was
a dream 5 years ago, and like now we're seeing it, but it's not the same as if it had happened right away.
Right, but I thought the idea of like, man, like Chris Bryant, Javi Baez, Anthony Rizzo all on one team, that team would be unstoppable. It's like that was the team.
That was the thing.
So from that angle, I would say that's the only thing that bothered me. If I'm taking the negative side of the trade deadline, is I hated what the Cubs did, and because I understand the Nationals trading Scherzer. I understand an aging superstar, you're not doing well. Because one, it gets you off their payroll, you get some young guys to come in, and you kind of are doing right by him. You're giving him a chance to go on a competing team. So it's kind of a win-win for everyone. The problem with what the Cubs did to me, when basically giving away all your star core players that are still like in their prime, just because you don't want to pay them like their big contract, to me, I think is a problem. And I would say ultimately I have a problem with it. And these guys that brought you, that broke the curse or whatever you want to call it, that brought you the World Series, have done everything you asked them to do. None of them get to like their second contract with you. I think maybe Rizzo did, but it's like, to me that's a bad sign, and that's a poorly run organization. I think other people see that, and I think when you're a player in the organization, and you're in the minors or you're a prospect, and like, hey man, you do this, and this, we're going to take care of you, and so then when you see they basically just get rid of you because they don't want to pay any of you, If I was a Cubs player, like in the minors, that would bother me. And I think I think every player understands that it's a business, and they understand sometimes you got to move people, and you can't pay everyone. And sometimes when you have a really good team, that means you got to get rid of maybe one or two guys because you're paying other guys. I think where it's a problem to players in the clubhouse is when it's a guy, let's take like an Anthony Rizzo or Chris Bryant, or someone's like they're a leader in the clubhouse. They or someone like Chris Bryant, they were drafted by you. They've done everything you've asked them to do. They brought your World Series. They've won an MVP. They've validated where you took them. They've done everything you asked them to do. Now they're just asking to, be paid fairly as everything else. And it's like, well, we can't do that. We'll let you go somewhere else. To me, I think that can be a problem. And that's where players start going, no, that's not. We all acknowledge that this is a business, but take care of your guys that have done everything you've asked them to do. So on that note, that's why I had a little bit of a problem with what the Cubs did.
Yeah, I think my issue that I'm having with baseball is, I don't like. I feel like there's so many games now or series where you're just like these teams shouldn't be in the same league. Like I feel like you can pick out like teams in baseball now in the MLB that you're like these are two different tiers. This is like if a double A team was to play a triple A team, right? And it's like, oh yeah, they shouldn't really. There's just a clear gap. Like there's just some teams that just are really not competitive,
right?
And the the massive unloading of superstar guys and these teams that are it doesn't seem very balanced,
right? You brought up the point. I know in the past you brought up a point. I think at the start of the season about the Pirates. And I think you were basically saying, like, listen, every team in baseball is a little bit different. Every team has different salaries and they have different money. But when a team is actively going out of their way to not basically be competitive and not even seem like they're trying to win, that's different than just being a small market team that can't pay for the same players. And yeah, when it's like you're actively going out of your way to not be competitive, there's a lot of things wrong with it. One, I saw some people saying like, well, yeah, imagine you're a Cubs season ticket holder or something like that. Like, you're probably like, I want a refund. Yeah. I'm not saying we're going to be a World Series team every year, but like, if you're not even going to try to compete, you're just going to get rid of all the best players. Like, yeah, why do I need to support you then in that way? Or you're a Pirates fan, or you go through the list because there are, like take the A's and the Rays for instance. They're small market teams and they always seem to be competitive. They find a way to be competitive. They have to do it a little bit differently, but yeah, they have their limitations, but they're clearly putting the best product that they can on the field year after year, right?
And yeah, I mean, like there's always like there's the whole tanking strategy, right? Of like you don't want to be in the middle. We're gonna find our way to the bottom so that we can stock up on guys and build from there.
Right.
Like that's completely reasonable. I'm just saying the amount of like to the extent that it's gone seems a little wild. Like how loaded some of these teams are and how bare some of these teams are is insane.
Do you think that's just a baseball thing, or do you think could you maybe say the same thing about basketball, or do you think that's not the case in basketball?
I think it is in basketball, and I mean there's been outrage about it. I don't know if basketball is quite as top heavy as baseball seems right now, or maybe just that basketball always seemed that top heavy,
right?
Or maybe that there is also that I'm just becoming. I realize I'm becoming an old salty baseball player.
I love it.
Just very very rapidly, and there's definitely some of that in what I'm saying.
No, but I don't think what you're saying is wrong. I would agree with it, and especially now post trade deadline. I mean, because the rich got richer and the weak got even weaker, So that's even more of a case now. I would agree with that. I'm just saying when you said it, I'm like, I think that is kind of a problem. It seems like in sports in general, at least like the major sports. I would say football isn't really like that. Obviously the worst team's the worst team, but you take the Jags last year were the worst team and they play the Bucks. Like, you could turn on the TV and at halftime it's a tie game or something.
There's an any given Sunday effect in the NFL.
Right. Which is the same a bit. I mean, listen, any team can beat. I saw the Rockies came to San Diego and won the series against the Padres or something like that in a big series. I mean, it definitely happened.
But that's the shock of that is unbelievable. You know what I'm saying? Those are two in division teams,
right? Yeah. And there was a lot of articles like, this might ruin the Padres season. This was where they were supposed to, take off or whatnot. And it's like, hey, you lost a baseball series. It happens.
Yeah. This is supposed to be
major league player. Mm-hmm. Connor Joe coming home and hitting a big home run to help the Rockies beat the Padres. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Did you watch the games?
No, I saw the highlights of it, and obviously following him, and a lot of mutual friends saw it on social media.
I'm sorry, real quick before we transition away, before this becomes a rant, I do want to plug my idea for promotion and relegation, because I've been thinking about that a lot the last few days after this trade deadline.
You're right. It has been a couple months without you bringing it up, so we're on our. We need you to keep.
I think that's how we solve the problem, man. And we, hopefully the milkmen keep rolling here. Maybe we can get promoted to the Atlantic
so
League.
This is for selfish reasons. This isn't.
Yeah, because I understand. Teams may not if I can't get picked up into, you know what I'm saying, then I'll just try to take the team there with me. You know what I mean?
I weirdly respect the hell out of that. So I'm not gonna make it there, the way they want it to happen. I'm gonna change.
Yeah.
I'm gonna change.
I'm gonna change everything. Exactly. I'm gonna change the rules.
What I'm gonna need you to do is I need you to sit down and really come up with the full plan of how this would work, because I feel like the idea is good and you have a lot of the ideas, but the real full execution of how it would work.
So here's my only here's my number one obstacle that I see right now is the travel.
Okay.
At the high, once you get to a high enough level, it doesn't matter because everybody can afford to fly.
Right.
But I feel like if you get low, if you're gonna have some teams, say you have a team out in California that falls all the way down to where they can only afford a bus, but most of their teams are on the East Coast. Mm. You know what I'm saying? Then you face a challenge. So you would have to either find a way to make it so that all levels of professional baseball can afford to fly, or I mean teams. I guess organizations could just ultimately fold based on not being able to get to where they're trying to go.
Yeah, I don't know how it works, obviously, but could it not be if a team gets brought up to the big leagues, would they not then instantly have the money to be able to fly?
Yes, your team would receive a promotion bonus. Okay. And the bonus would ideally put the organization in a position to compete at the next level. Right. So somebody smarter than me would have to come up with what those numbers are at each level. But yeah, you would be able to, pay players more, sign new guys, upgrade your facilities, pay for travel.
I mean, it's a very exciting idea. There's a lot of moving parts to it. Obviously, that it sounds like need to be ironed out.
There's a lot of people that don't give a fuck about it. That we have to give a fuck about it. I think that would be the biggest obstacle. Right.
That's
besides
anything.
the travel.
That's anything in this world. God, you just get enough people to give a fuck, then you can change something. The idea of being a AAA team or an indie ball team or however it works, you're not at the level, and then you get. Not that you get called up to the big leagues, your team just gets called up to the big leagues. The rush of excitement of that, right. I think that'd be awesome. And vice versa, the disappointment on the other side of being
think about I know we're going on this for a while now, but think about what that does for team morale. How much more are you bought in? Think about how little you've cared about games sometimes because it's look, whatever happens in this game, I'm especially as a starting pitcher, I'm not in it. My whole goal for being here is to get out. Right. So you know what I'm saying? But if my opportunity for advancement comes from us doing well, oh man, you're gonna have some exciting baseball going
Absolutely.
on at every level.
Because you would have to admit, and I will admit too, especially in indie ball, even in the minor leagues, that especially when you're getting near the ninth inning or you're getting near extras, like once you get to that point, you're almost just hoping for it to be over as fast as possible. Like I don't care, we win, they walk us off, it doesn't matter. I mean, that would obviously change in this system, and just so people understand, it's not because nobody's competitive; it's because the goal there is to get out of there. And if you can win, obviously everyone enjoys winning, but like you are there for selfish reasons, and that's what you're supposed to be there for.
And right, and also on the it's more that, but it's also like you're playing a full season,
right.
So like at a certain point, the cost of winning one game becomes too high, where you're just like, okay, we've burned our entire bullpen.
That's a great way to put it.
we don't have an off day for 2 weeks,
right.
Like how much are we willing, like how many injuries do we want to suffer in the next few times for this one game?
That's a great way to put it. The cost of winning is too high.
Yeah.
We don't have an off day.
That's
for 2
my whole,
weeks, and then off day is a travel day. So
yeah, exactly. Oh my god, I hate those so bad. That was. I mean, I'm not going to Winnipeg, but that was what we have an off day where they're just on the bus the whole time.
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, listen, man. I don't think it's a terrible idea. You listen. If we're being honest, you've brought up a couple things since this podcast has started, and even earlier since I've known you that have started to come to light. You were the first person I heard talking about the checking pitchers for substances and stuff like that. I know your way was a little bit different, but it was shortly after that where then it became that's now what they're doing.
That's what they're doing.
So I'm just saying, you've been a little what Nostradamus, is that what you can see in the future?
I'm not. Like, I am often as checked out of the real world as I seem, but there are times where I feel like I am pretty tuned in. I do kind of know what's going on, and I have some ideas.
I wasn't trying to say you don't have ideas. I was trying to say that I think you have some really good ideas. And
no, that was my underhanded way of patting myself on the back.
Gotcha. But I was going to say is that your ideas, while they do seem a little crazy at first, I think, I remember the first time you brought this up, I was like, nah, not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then the more time you go, I was like, yeah, actually, I don't hate it. And now I'm like, it would make it kind of exciting. You're right. The logistics of it seems like we would need somebody else to come up with that. But the idea behind it, the essence of it, I think is exciting. It adds excitement. And I'm all about excitement. I want sports to be exciting. I want intrigue in each game. I want games to matter. I want, I want all that stuff. Yeah. All right, transitioning a little bit, we did talk about teams tanking and teams trying to get younger and prospects and stuff like that. And I did want to kind of go back to the Major League Baseball draft that was not too long ago, and I wanted to get your opinion on the Kumar Rocker situation because I have some thoughts, and I'm sure you have some thoughts. Obviously, an unfortunate situation. For those who don't know, the Mets drafted Kumar Rocker, the very talented and accomplished Vanderbilt pitcher, 11th overall, and did not come to an agreement with him after drafting him, discovering that they had problems with his MRI and his elbow, and didn't basically want to pay him what they had agreed to pay him for different reasons. I'm not trying to push the opinion one way or the other. I'm just trying to give what happened.
Yeah. So just acknowledging the bias, right? We've been on the player side, and we've known people who have gone through similar ordeals, or seen and heard about it happen a bunch. The medical stuff in sports can be so. It's such a thing that you can't call bullshit on. But there can be people can put bullshit into it,
right?
So I mean, I don't know. I don't.
We're dropping some good one-liners on this episode today. Got a lot of content.
No, but I don't know. I don't want to say my heart goes. I'm sure Kumar Rocker is going to be just fine. He's an absolute stud on the mound. But this is a tough situation. From what I see for him, where your dream's coming true, you've worked so hard, and then a team tries to save some bucks on you by saying that that you might be unhealthy, because no pitcher has ever had arm problems in their early career as a minor leaguer and come back to be a great pitcher.
Right. That was sarcasm for people that didn't.
It's never happened ever. No, I mean, it's just tough, and I hope he gets to a spot where he feels comfortable and like he's not being taken advantage of, and he can try to compete at the highest level.
Yeah. I think it's just tough because there's a lot of reasons why sometimes athletes get screwed over, and I think a lot of them are self-inflicted at times. And this is one of those situations where, I mean, this kid has done absolutely nothing wrong. I mean, he's done everything you can ask, an athlete to do. Right? Why he's getting essentially screwed over is because of stuff that's completely out of his control. He went to Vanderbilt, he did his job, he worked his ass off, and he put himself in a position to be here. Regardless if he has something wrong with his elbow or not, like that's not on him. I know he just completed one of the better seasons in the SEC that you can have, So does he maybe have some wear and tear? Does he have a problem with it? I don't know, but I know he never missed a start in college, and I know he's the same guy you thought he was before you drafted him as he is after you drafted him. And I saw somebody bring up, I'm like, even worst case scenario, he does need Tommy John right away. Like you said, like, okay, people come back from that. Like, that's not what it once was. Like, a lot of guys get Tommy John now, and they come back better than ever. So you've obviously, and the idea that you wouldn't have done a little bit more homework on him before drafting him, and I read an article about how I think some teams, maybe one of the reasons he fell a little bit in the draft where he was expected to is because their side and Scott Boras was not really letting teams get their medical people in to check him out and not letting them get their MRIs, and was kind of keeping that hush hush. Which I understand that I understand it from the team's side of it, but the idea that then, okay, so that's the case. You have no idea where he's at medically. You're upset that you're not able to get your own MRI in before the draft. But you choose to draft him anyway. To me, that means there had to have been some conversation of, okay, regardless of what we find medically when we take him, we're good with it. We're good with the upside of this guy. And the idea that, okay, if we take you here, we're agreeing to this. And he goes, yeah, and you agree to that. And then after the fact, let's say worst case scenario happens where you do the MRI and you find out it's not what you wanted for. Like, this is still an extremely talented guy that I would think that you've already agreed to whatever happened. Then we'll help him get through the recovery of this, and we're gonna bank on the upside though. That okay, so if the plan of drafting a guy in college who was a 3-year college guy first overall or first round. Let's say your plan is probably best case scenario up in the big leagues within 3 years, right? Like, theoretically, even if he has to miss a season, like that's not out of the question. You know?
I think my thing is just like if you're worried about drafting somebody that's going to get hurt or like signing somebody that's going to be hurt, you shouldn't be in the business of signing professional athletes.
Yeah. That's a good point. Or I'm just saying if you have a specific thing on that person, then you shouldn't draft him. Like, I don't know. I agree with you that, listen, in sports you can get hurt at any time. You can draft a fully healthy guy and they can get hurt in their first minor league outing. But I'm saying in a situation like this where it sounds like you had any concern over what his medicals were going to look like after drafting him, then you shouldn't have drafted him. The only way you draft in that situation is you have a conversation and you go, listen, we're concerned about this because we don't know. And they're being very kind of vague about what the situation is, but we're taking him here because regardless of what happens, we're going to stick this out with him and we're going to see it through it. We're going to see him through this. So to me, that's where I had a problem with it. And the other problem I have with it is just the way it's set up now where, he can't go. I don't understand why the Mets still have his rights for a year. I think that's fucked up. And I think that's something that baseball needs to take a look at, is that you shouldn't be able to then hold that person's rights for the next year. Okay, you don't want to sign him, now he's a free agent. And now maybe every team gets an MRI of him and they think the same thing. But at least you're allowing every team to have a chance of, okay, well, we're willing to pay for his Tommy John and let's see what we got, It's kind of a similar situation to a guy I worked out with, actually, in Brady Aiken when he was the number 1 overall pick. And It was the same thing. Like they didn't sign him. I know in that situation he did end up going to IMG Academy and pitching, and he did get hurt shortly after that, and he entered the draft next year, and he was a first rounder again next year. But it was the same thing. I remember talking to him about it because that one was different. Where the Mets, I guess, this year with Kumar Rocker, they just didn't offer him anything. Whereas in Brady Aiken's case, they were like, the Mets were like, we don't like what we see. We're not offering you anything. Where in Brady Aiken's case, he was saying the Astros. It was the Astros, right? Yeah, the Astros were saying
they wanted a discount.
Yeah,
from what I remember.
We don't like what we see now that we draft you, so we'll give you half of what we agreed to. And he's like,
so they weren't going to give Kumar any of what they? No,
that's my understanding.
Something.
No, that's my understanding. They're like, yeah, we're just now not signing you because we don't like what we see. I thought they were
trying to get a discount.
My understanding is they were not trying to get a discount. Maybe they were trying to get the wording in the contract to be, give you this, and then if you get hurt, it goes to this or whatnot. But my understanding is they were not willing to give him anything of what they agreed to because they didn't like what they saw. But when the Brady Aiken situation is, they were like, yeah, we'll give you half. And I remember his point was like, at that time he felt healthy, and he was like, if you're that concerned, why give me anything? That was like kind of his point. Like, if you're still going to give me millions of dollars. Because half of what they agreed to was still like $3 or $4 million. He's like, then you'd have to have some sort of that's still a huge investment in somebody. So you'd obviously have to have some comfort in it. So to me, that seemed more of like a cop out. Or to me, while it sucks for Kumar Rocker, it makes more sense if you're not going to offer him anything because you're like, we just don't think he's. Now we're completely off of him, which sucks for him. But at least that makes more sense to me than like, actually, I know we said we were going to give you $4 million, but now we're only going to give you $3 million. Because we think you're damaged goods. It's like, well, then why give me $3 million if you think I'm damaged goods? So I just think it sucks for him because now it's like, yeah, he's in a shit position, and now he has to wait a year to re-enter the draft, and now you kind of have a black eye on you, because now everyone's like, what happened? Where is he going to go if he goes and plays somewhere and continues to dominate and never has a problem? I would imagine it's not an issue moving forward. But like we said with the Brady Aiken situations, he did go somewhere and he did get hurt. So not saying that maybe it was a coincidence, but I hope Kumar Rocker obviously proves them wrong. I mean, obviously we're on the pro player side of this.
Right.
I don't think that's surprising. It's such an interesting situation because I feel like baseball ultimately went to this, they changed the draft rules. They went to this slotted signing bonus system to prevent this type of stuff from happening. Because it used to happen more for different reasons where guys would get drafted and then they'd start the negotiation process and then, you'd end up not signing them and all that kind of stuff. That the idea was that this stuff shouldn't really happen anymore. And the fact that it's happening to somebody who also is kind of one of the more well-known names in baseball draft because he was so successful at Vanderbilt. It's like, I don't know. It just seems very unfair to him, and I wish that wasn't the case. I guess is ultimately.
Yeah. Whether it's fair, that's how I was just thinking. Is like whether it's fair or unfair, it's just a shitty process. Right. Like even if it turns out that the Mets we're on the 100. We're did everything by the book, due diligence. Hey, this just isn't worth it. Like maybe the agency and his people. Maybe Kumar's an asshole. No idea. I don't know the guy. But even if the team is right in this decision or on the stance they're deciding to take, it's a shitty situation to be in to where you're like, it's finally happening. And then no, it's not.
Yeah. It should be noted, while neither of us have ever met Kumar Rocker, all the reports, if you want to believe reports, are that he is the opposite of an asshole and could not be a nicer guy.
See, I didn't know that.
That's my understanding.
I always love hearing that.
Yeah, he's. When I would watch College World Series and they talk about him at Vanderbilt, he's known as just a great teammate and just a dude. Just gets after it, physically and mentally, which obviously are easy guys to root for.
Yeah,
but awesome. All right. What else we got?
Well, we can talk about the Lakers.
Okay. Yeah.
Whether or not or how you feel about what the moves that they've made.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I really just know about Russ. We got Russ. You got LeBron. You got AD.
They signed my favorite player in the league, Trevor Ariza.
Trevor Ariza.
Little bit later than I think they would have liked. Maybe 5 or 6 years ago would have been a good time to add Trevor Ariza to the bunch. They signed Dwight Howard back. Dwight Howard's back in his third stint with the Lakers. They signed, and then they signed Malik Monk, who I thought was actually a pretty good signing, kind of swept under the rug of one of the younger guys they signed. And they signed Kendrick Nunn, who I also thought was a pretty good pickup. Okay. Who else did they
I have a vague idea of who Monk is. I have no idea. Oh, did you say Dunn?
Nunn, no.
None.
Because Chris Dunn is a different player in the NBA, but they are similar styles, so sometimes I get them mixed up too. They're both point guards.
I don't think that's what happened. I don't think I know either of them.
Kendrick Nunn, guy on the Heat. I think he was an undrafted guy or at least a second round or low drafted guy that did really well for the Heat.
Nice.
I think his last couple years wasn't as productive, but I thought just for what the Lakers need, I thought adding him that was a good pickup. Got a second unit guy, kind of take maybe over that Dennis Schroeder role that they'll lose. I mean, he's still a free agent, but I don't think they're gonna re-sign him. Malik Monk, ex-Kentucky guard, went to the Hornets. I want to say just a young bucket guy, get you a bucket guy, good shooter,
small forward, shooting guard,
more of a guard. I don't think
more of a guard.
I mean, the position, he's a wing player. However, you want to dish that out, but sharp shooter, good shooter. Just a solid guy off the bench. Also, just as we talk more about the Lakers, they got older. They were already an old team. They got older.
So
let's get I thought that's why Malik Monk and Kevin are younger players. Right. I feel like I'm missing an aging guy that the Lakers signed as well that I'm forgetting. I can't remember.
Well, let's go to
Carmelo. Oh. They signed Carmelo.
Yeah, how did I forget that? That's pretty wild. Melo and Braun. I'm all for I want them to just do that squad, like the Melo, Braun, CP3, and bring D Wade out of retirement.
I mean, CP3 re-signed in Phoenix for a lot of money. He did not take the pay cut that you wanted him to take.
Good for him.
But I'll be talking about players all playing together. Yeah, I mean, think about a time in your life not that long ago. You'd be like, hey, LeBron, Carmelo Anthony, and Dwight Howard are all teaming up on a team together with Anthony Davis. You're like, oh my God.
Then obviously they're gonna disband the NBA.
Yeah, because why even play nobody. A season?
Right. Yeah.
And now it's I don't think that works.
No, it's it's. I'm so intrigued. I wish. I don't know, the LeBron and Russ dynamic is what I am ultimately super intrigued to see. Because Russ has become the narrative I understand it on Russ is that he is just everybody's favorite, but nobody can play with him.
Right. Yeah. Which is supported a little bit by an all-time great keeps jumping around teams. That does.
Yeah, I know. Since he left his original spot that was built around him, he's kept moving every season. So and LeBron I think could go down for how do I say this? I don't want to say best teammate because there's whatever, but as far as a superstar being able to bring other superstars in and work with them effectively, I don't know if anybody's done it like LeBron has. So it's like if anybody could do it with Russ, it would be LeBron. Yeah. And then you factor in the age thing too. Does it even matter? Because are they effective for a full season into the playoffs at their age? Right. But
no, that's a good point. I mean, but also in that point, you're leaving out. I mean, Anthony Davis needs his touches too. So I think the problem is not that he,
But that seems I don't know. I feel like everything still runs through LeBron. LeBron is still the alpha personality.
Alpha personality, definitely. I felt my personal belief is the year they won the championship when they had to go through the bubble. Regardless of how everyone feels about that championship, I felt like overall the offense ran through Anthony Davis, and it was kind of a transition. Which that was different. That was different for LeBron. and it worked, and they won. The only reason I bring up the Anthony Davis thing with talking about Westbrook is just that you're talking about, it's talking about, well, how does LeBron and Westbrook going to work together, and how do these guys work together? And whenever you're talking about these guys working together and they're all ball dominant people, I think that's where the questions come up. It's like there is only so many touches in a game.
Yeah.
So to me, the reason why there's skepticism of if it's going to work is like basic numbers. Like each one of them needs so many touches that they're not going to be able to get in the game. I mean, they all need that to be productive. And you'd say the one that doesn't need it the most to have an impact would probably be LeBron. But you don't want to take the ball out of LeBron's hands either. So I think that's where it becomes a little tricky. And that's where my ultimate take is I think LeBron, if he decides to retire, when he decides to retire one day and he wants to be a GM, he's going to be a terrible GM.
You think LeBron's going to be? I think LeBron is the best player GM we've seen.
Yeah, and I think that's a common thing, and I think it's the same way I feel like a lot of people thought about Magic, and and I think LeBron and Magic. LeBron always gets compared to MJ, and I think the better comparison is LeBron and Magic. And I think I could see LeBron having a very similar post-career than Magic. Very successful in a lot of ways, but not in the front office and like coaching side of basketball. Like that was the one area where Magic kind of failed. He tried to be a coach for a little. I think he made like 17 games, and he either got fired or he quit. And in his front office role, some people think he was the one that laid the groundwork to get Anthony Davis. I think overall he was not a very good GM. And
my bad.
It's all right. And I think a lot of people have that belief of LeBron being the best like player GM or whatnot in basketball, and I think he doesn't quite understand what he needs around him to be successful. And I think he sometimes he really likes older players, which I think at times so many times in his career it's kind of been burnt by it. Where people have been like, well, if everyone was healthy, he'd have the best team. But they get into the playoffs and they're not quite healthy. It's like, well, maybe that's because all the guys are like 35 plus and they can't get through an entire season. I mean, that's
right.
And I'm not saying that's the only reason, but when he was with the Heat, he liked the Shane Battiers more than the younger guys, and it works out sometimes too. But he's always liked those guys, and he likes. And there's so many guys he respects. And I think he respects Russell Westbrook's work ethic and the way he plays. Mm-hmm. So he goes, I want to play with that guy, as opposed to thinking, what are the best players that complement this team, though? And
so here's
having
an
guys. Okay.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I was just thinking, like, it's like in the early part of his career, he needed veteran. It makes sense for him to have veteran guys because he's the young freak of nature that over the course of a season can dominate and get you to the playoffs. But once you get to the playoffs and the game gets slower and all of that, all the things that happen in the playoffs, you need veteran guys that know what they're doing to kind of get you through. Right. Whereas now he's the veteran and maybe the shift should be to find young, ultra talented guys that you can, that can kind of carry you to the playoffs for you to lead them through the playoffs. Right.
No, I'd agree with that. I think the other reason why he likes older veteran guys too is an aspect of, been there, done that type of thing. Is when they get to those big moments is that he doesn't have to worry about, this being the first time, this guy's been in the situation. We saw with the Phoenix Suns this year, it's a younger team. That's had Chris Paul, and they got in those moments, and, would Mikal Bridges be a great player for the Lakers to have? Sure, but maybe having a guy where I think he feels having that guy, he'd rather have a Trevor Ariza who's been there, won championships, been in those moments, than a guy that's never been there before. I would maybe disagree with that, but I think that's how he feels. Where I would be more on the side of I think you want younger, fresher legs, that can kind of do the same stuff, and that part of being who you are is you bring them along and you help them in those moments. But to me, it's more about players that complement him. And Russell Westbrook doesn't complement him. Whereas I would look, and I think LeBron in his career so many times, I remember, and it was funny because even when he was in Cleveland, that second stint, and he brought Dwayne Wade in near the end of his career, and it was I understand you guys are best friends and it's Dwayne Wade, but that's not a player that complements you at this stage. In his career, and ultimately they ended up trading him at the deadline I think back to the Heat or whatnot because it didn't work out. And I think a lot of people felt like that was LeBron realizing now what he needed. And I feel like ever since then that hasn't necessarily changed. And he's still, I think the players that he's attracted to are players that he respects and wants to play with. And I get it from that standpoint. But the way I would look at it is if I were LeBron is I would try to emulate similar to what the Bucks did around Giannis, is that they got a lot of players around him. They're all very good players, but they all complement Giannis. Like they all don't necessarily need the ball that much. They all can be effective in other ways. They can be effective on the defensive end. They can be effective getting rebounds. They can hit shots, but they can play off of him and play off the ball. And I think he needs more players like that as opposed to more. Whereas a lot of people go, no, he needs more people that can get their own shot to take some of the pressure off him, which is nice, but I think it would be better for him to have more guys that can play off of him than just other guys that can dominate the ball and take some of the load off of his shoulders.
Yeah, this is a hard thing for me to say, but I think he needs to find people that can carry the load that he can complement. I think that was the big thing, like you alluded to with Anthony Davis was the first time where it was like, no, like the primary guy out there is Anthony Davis. Like this is still LeBron's team, but like if you're planning for him, you're like, we got to worry about Anthony Davis and then LeBron.
Yeah. But I would say I think LeBron and Anthony Davis complement each other very well. And that's why I'm saying because they already have both of them, I would have just been looking for players to complement both of them as opposed to bringing in a third superstar that now we also have to get touches for. And I think that's where I looked at the Russell Westbrook trade as I wasn't the biggest fan of it from the Lakers' perspective because that's not what I thought they needed. I think they needed more Trevor Ariza-type players, maybe more you can find them.
I think I could see where maybe they're looking at it like, yeah, we can, because Russ is is always been a workhorse, right? So like, okay, like we keep getting hurt. It's like, right, like we need to like instead of finding guys that complement us, we need to find somebody like that we can like sit back and be like, go do your thing.
No, yeah, I mean, that's probably the way they're thinking. I guess I would say that's not how I would have done it if I was the GM. Right. I'm not the GM, but if I were the GM, I would have gone a different route. And it's easy to say who knows who's available and who knows who accepts.
Yeah, that's the thing. We don't even know if this is like the desired outcome. Right. Like if this could have been like, yeah, we went in looking for something completely different.
That's it. That's literally
that just
what
wasn't
happened.
In the cards.
They had a trade ready for Buddy Hield. With the Kings, with basically the same players that they ended up sending to Washington for Westbrook. I guess they pivoted some in the negotiations to Westbrook, which you would say, regardless of they're obviously different players, but that has to be a different philosophy going in the offseason shift. Going for a Buddy Hield who is maybe going to come off the bench or maybe in the starting lineup, but is going to play off of your guys and is going to be a spot-up shooter and occasionally get his own basket, and then shifting that towards a max contract, ball-dominant point guard. That's a shift in philosophy right there in a matter of, I feel like, a couple hours.
I'll expose a little bit of my ignorance. I do know who Buddy Hield is, but I thought he had kind of emerged into like I mean, not a superstar by any means, but like a guy who could legitimately get his own bucket in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, I think he can. I'll admit I don't watch every Kings basketball game, as most people don't.
My understanding was that they were like kind of like the new growing young team, and that Buddy Hield was kind of the face of that.
No,
that's what I thought.
Is De'Aaron Fox had become the face of that, and Halliburton, who they drafted recently, was starting to emerge, and Marvin, what was his name, Bagley Jr. That was more the core. That's why Buddy Hield, I think, was available in trade. He was kind of getting pushed out. No, I think he can get his own bucket. He's a great offensive player. But I thought the idea was more that he also is a great spot-up shooter, and he's also a guy that can play a little bit.
Floor.
And he can just play off ball a little bit more than someone like a Russell Westbrook can. So I think that was the idea behind that. But no, the idea of LeBron and Carmelo. The other thing with Carmelo is I was like, it's a great story, but again, like I know different money, different. But Carmelo, I think, signed with the Lakers right around the time that PJ Tucker signed with the Heat, and I was just saying, different money, different contract situation. But to me, it's so much more obvious that if I'm the Lakers and I want to win, I'd rather have PJ Tucker as my versatile forward or whatnot than a Carmelo Anthony. Where Carmelo Anthony is a flashy name and it's LeBron's buddy. But like if you're really trying to mess some shit up for some other teams, like I'd rather have a PJ Tucker out there. And I think that's why I say like I think the philosophy behind what he needs around him, it's just more, it's like we can get another guy that can score on his own and get his own shot. It's like I think you kind of have enough of that in a sense. Like I guess you can never have too much of that, but I was like I think I'd rather have a little bit more versatility, a little bit. Okay, we have our guys that can get us buckets. Now let's get some guys that can lock down some other teams' players and play good defense and maybe more rebounding or stuff like this.
I'm sorry. I keep cutting you off.
No, this is what the conversation is. We this is part of the conversation.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, do you think how much do you think LeBron's like focus has shifted from like winning in the pure sense to like I'm not gonna say like not competing, like he's like I don't think he's ever like in it not to compete, but like almost more like I just want to hoop with my friends. I'm in LA. I got a lot of shit going on. I just became a billionaire. Things are going good. I'm definitely in the tail end of my career. I have people around me that are playing better than me. Like I'm still playing at a high level, but this is more like we're gonna try to get a ring, but like this is more about doing it with the people that I enjoy doing it with than it is like getting the best people for the job.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it. I think he obviously wants to play with the people he wants to play with. I think also just because he probably feels that also enhances your chances of winning if you have a good chemistry in the clubhouse. When it's him and just a bunch of young guys that he can't relate to, maybe the chemistry isn't as good. Where it's more people he can relate to, So it's not just from I just want to have fun, but just like I think this helps us win by having more chemistry in the clubhouse. I think he definitely. Because he's a competitor, I think he wants to match or beat MJ's, championship, of 6 or whatnot. And we talk about how ridiculous it is that, one player gets all the credit for that. But I think that's in the back of his mind. And also because I think he views it as possible with the team. Like I think it'd be a little bit different maybe if they didn't have Anthony Davis. And it was him. It's like it's gonna be you and a bunch of people around you. So get the people you want to play with. Where it's like once you add Anthony Davis to the equation, it's like you are a legitimate championship contender. And so if you add the right pieces around here, like we could be the best team in the West, and we could still win championships. And if you have a couple more years, maybe 1 or 2 more championships is possible. I think he wants to do. I mean, I think that would be his main goal and his main focus is still trying to do that.
Yeah. I
don't think, regardless of how much fun he wants to have and all that kind of, I have to imagine he does not like with who he is being bounced in the first round. I think that has to sting him of losing the Suns in the first round and then his first year in LA not making the playoffs, and I know then they won a championship in the second one, but I think he's like regardless of a championship, we got to compete, we got to be one of the best teams. Like I'm not trying to get embarrassed in the first round of the playoffs. So I would imagine that's his ultimate goal. I just don't know if the moves they made are helping that or not.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's almost like, and maybe this is just a perception thing because I feel like it kind of happened for me when he moved to LA. It just like, it felt like that part of his career ended. Like the part that was like the part that started in Cleveland to Miami and back to Cleveland, where it was like, how many rings can you get? How legit are you as a great basketball player? Like, what's your legacy in basketball? Like, I feel like when he came to LA, like that, like it was no longer that same. It was more like, okay, this is like almost like this time is my victory lap.
Yeah.
And we're still. That doesn't mean we're cashing it in, but it's but like I don't feel like I don't feel him like pressing to get rings to impress people.
Yeah, that's a good point because I think also he talks a lot about how that championship in Cleveland where they came back from 3-1, he always makes a point to be like, that's worth more than one championship. Like, that's the greatest accomplishment ever. And he almost kind of alludes to that being more impressive than anything like MJ or anyone did, which, I disagree with. But I do think,
but that was a big deal for him.
And I think also the idea of coming to LA, which would support your point of you're more likely to play with the people you want to play if you're in LA as opposed to Cleveland, because it's easier to get people to come here to LA than it is to get people to come to Cleveland. So I definitely think that's part of it. I just think there is an added part of because he truly feels that's going to help him win. I think you are right about the fact that he's at a phase where he just wants to play with the people he wants to play with, but partly because he thinks that is going to help him win more than playing when he got to LA with Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram and
right, because they tried the young guy thing,
I think he was like, these guys are good, but I'm not really enjoying it as much. Like I think he was like, I want to play with my guys, and I think Kobe was similar. He was like, I need to be around guys that are at least somewhat like-minded to me, and that's really hard to find. But whether they're good or not, like I can't be around these guys that are kind of slapdicks in a sense. Regardless if they're more talented or not. And I think LeBron is kind of, and it's hard to find those guys that are like that. But I guess you could probably, of all the guys assigned, you would say that's one thing that they all have in common is they're all very like-minded. Probably to LeBron. I think that's why I think he likes maybe the veterans more than the younger guys.
Like you imagine, however, whether the season goes well and they all love each other, or it goes bad and it's drama. Like you imagine, like they're all kind of going to be in the same place. Like you're not going to have one guy like upset that they're losing, and the other guys are just kind of like, I don't give a shit.
Right. Well, on a much smaller scale, I mean, I remember you talking about when you went to your first year in Milwaukee, and you were like, it's a little bit younger of a clubhouse, where it's like, that feeling of, we're not on like similar, not that we're not all similar athletes, but we're at such different stages of our lives and our careers. It's a little bit harder to almost interact with each other or understand what people are going through.
There's that. I definitely, and I kind of see that more clearly this year for myself,
right?
Where it's like, sometimes like we have a great group of guys. I don't want to like say anything like we don't, but there are times where I'm like, I don't like just what I'm not on what these people are on,
right?
And then you realize it's like, because like my career path or not like, I don't want to say it like that, but like.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But that's the truth.
But
that's the truth.
We're just we're in different places in our lives, in our careers, and that is a thing.
I remember, and I think that was probably exactly how LeBron felt when he first got to the Lakers. Is all these guys are talented. Lonzo's talented, and Brandon Ingram's talented, and Kuzma's talented, and Josh Hart. They're all the talented guys. But I remember, I want to say even maybe he was talking about, or I've heard kind of veteran athletes talk about in that situation where it's like, you're married and kids, and in the off day you're looking, what schools your kids are going to go to, and your teammates like, hey, you want to go to like Vegas for a couple of days and party?
Right,
I can't. Like what? And it's just like, and I do think that's a part of it. And then you talk about chemistry. I do think that's why. I think now that you bring that up, I do think that is definitely part of it. Is you want people that are in the same kind of where they're at in their lives, not even careers or how they play. It's like you want to be when you have conversations, like it's like I can't even talk to this kid right now. I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, am I going to do a TikTok dance with you? No, I'm not doing a TikTok dance with you. Like, so I think I think that's actually a good point you brought up.
That's
him wanting more people around him like that.
And that kind of speaks to, I guess, if we're related it more, back to the experience of, the whole riding the bus thing, right? Is like, that is something that like makes this game hard on people. Besides just like, there's the physical part of getting older, where like, you have to become a different player. Like you don't feel as good all the time, like that whole thing. But then there's also just that like, you end up being around mostly people that are not in the same part of their life as you, and that can be uncomfortable.
Right. Which is also tough. Yeah, you're near the end of your career, in the minors or in indie ball, and you're on these bus rides, and you're getting through it, and you got a guy who's in his second year, being like, this is so much fun. Like, isn't this so much fun? You're just like, dude, I can't take that energy right now. Like, I'm trying to lock into what I need to do. But yeah, talk to me in 10 years from now. If you've been doing this, and there's nothing wrong with that. Younger player for feeling that way, because that's how I felt like when we first started. And that's great. And I'm so glad that you're like that. But it can be a little bit. Yeah, I need to sit away from you on the bus then because you're a little too happy right now.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So there's one more thing I wanted to ask you about. So I saw this story. Or tell me if you've seen the story of the Olympics of these two high jumpers that decided to share the gold medal. Have you seen this story?
I have not. Sounds disgusting.
So there were these two high jumpers. One from Italy. I apologize. I can't remember where the second one was from. But they basically were both, the way it works in high jump, my understanding is, you basically just keep raising it until somebody can't clear it, or whoever clears the highest or whatnot. And basically both these guys were just doing amazing. They were, they just kept going, and they bring, like, the judge or whatever brings them together and explains to them they can either, they're gonna have to have like a jump off where they keep going, or they can just share the gold medal. And they agreed to just share the gold medal. And wanted to get your take on, what you thought of it, and why is it the worst fucking thing you've ever heard in your entire life?
That's the most fucking disgusting thing. I'm so glad I didn't see that. I would have broken whatever TV I saw it on.
Well, it might make you even more upset to know that the majority of people are praising this as a great showing of sportsmanship. And I will say there is an added part of it that I've since found out, not that it should matter, but apparently also these two people are like best friends, and like they train together or whatnot, and that I think that also had something to do with it, is that they could share it together.
What could be cooler than just a who can jump higher competition between you and your buddy, and just in front of the world for the highest stakes? Just like, let's see, dude, I think I like, not even like I can be better than you, like, dude, damn, you can jump that high? All right, I'm gonna try to, let me see if I can jump that high too. That's like, oh my God, that's the shit you dream about.
And then the idea being like, well, then that would mean one of us gets the silver medal, so that's why we don't want to do it. I mean, it was one of those I saw, and I was like, I'm not gonna get upset, and then I fucking lost it, and I was just like, we had a thing about when we were talking about Simone Biles, and I was talking about watching the Olympics and how a lot of these people aren't like sports fans; they just get into the Olympics, and it's stuff like that where I'm like, that is the most beautiful thing about competition, right? Like you just said, like there's no bad thing. I don't have any animosity towards you. I don't want to hurt you. It's like, hey man, that's so cool that we're the last two standing. Let's see who can jump the highest, and the thing we've been working our entire lives for. Let's put it all out there. I was just like, what the fuck are we doing, man? Like this is the whole thing of it. Like, and the idea of beautiful sportsmanship, and I'm just like, fuck that, man.
Let's stop. This is so corny, but it's like in my head, and I have to say it. Let's stop literally pushing ourselves to new heights,
right? So
that we can both win.
Yeah, I mean that's
right?
It just,
the fuck are we doing?
Yeah,
If I was in the middle of like if we were playing ping pong or something in front of the world, and I had never played this intensive ping pong in my life, and you had never played this intensive ping pong in your life, and it was just the best experience ever. And then you're like, dude, I don't even want to finish this game because like it's so good. Like I want us just to both win. I'd be like, dude, fuck you.
Yeah.
I've never played this good in my entire life. Like we're not gonna stop.
Right.
I'd be pissed I won. Like if I beat you, like I'd be pissed I won because it's over. Right. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna try to end it before it actually ends.
Right. It was, so the video was, I ended up seeing one video where it looked like somebody had added subtitles to it, so I don't know how accurate it was, but it seemed like the judge or whatever that was telling them, like it was one of the guys brought it up to the judge. Like he was telling him what was going to go, and he was like, and one of the guys like, can we just share gold or something like that. And then he was like, and then the judge was like, you can if you want. And then they looked at each other and like, you want to do it? And then they like embraced and they hugged and they both started freaking out because they won gold. And everyone was like, this is beautiful. This is sportsmanship. This is what it's all about. Countries coming together, people coming together.
Should be put in front of a firing squad.
Yeah, I'm just, oh boy. Oh boy. You know, fuck, let's lean into that. I agree. I'm going to have your back on this. I agree. I mean, I was livid. It's one of those things that
obviously not. But
I was all in on it with you.
No, like I hate that.
No,
I absolutely hate it. I mean,
it's one of those things where I know we're both fans of the Mike Birbiglia when he's talking about the accident and the lawyers, and like he brings it up to everyone he sees. Like that's how I've been since I see the story. I was like, you see that thing about the two high jumpers? I got to talk about it. It bothered me so much.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that
I'm sorry I had to tell you about it. I was hoping that you would have already seen it, and then if you hadn't, I'm sorry that I had to be the one to tell you that exists out there.
Just what are we doing? What are we doing? What do we do? Like, why do we hate competition so much?
Because we love people coming together more, and we love sportsmanship more, and we love people loving each other more.
Right, but the idea that beating somebody would inherently drive them away or make us not close.
Right. No, I don't even, as someone that loves playing devil's advocate, I don't even like doing it on this because obviously it's very easy to see where we both stand on this. Let me ask you a question, because when I was talking about it with some of my family, they brought up this thing that happens sometimes in a track event where somebody falls that's in the lead, or they don't know where they're going,
and someone picks them up,
and somebody picks them up and helps them and lets them win, because it's you were gonna beat me if you didn't fall. I'm not just gonna pass you and not help you up. What do you got on that? Where would you say on that?
No, okay, so if you want to if you're racing, right, and in a moment it becomes less about you finishing in your spot in the race, and you just want to help this guy who is your competitor, so that's your family, that's somebody who understands you more than anybody else possibly could, because they do the same thing that you do, and they're down and they're hurting, and you want to help them finish because just them finishing would help their peace of mind so much, and that takes precedence over finishing the best you can. I don't hate that. I'm not oh my God, that's the most amazing thing. Good dude. Those are good people that do shit like that. Cause it's just, it's taking you're abandoning the competition essentially to be human for another person. Right. But to say two able-bodied people, that's different to me than the high jumper thing.
So I hear that. That's not exactly what I was talking about. So there was a video that circulated of, some of the stuff was going on in the Olympics, I think from 5 or 6 years ago, it was a long distance race, and this guy was in the lead by a lot, and he either he was 20 meters away from the finish line or something like that, and fell down. Well, I didn't know where he was going. He gave out, and the person that was in second helped him get up and let him finish first, because he's you were already in the lead, and so he took second as opposed to first. And my point was no, the race is this amount of distance. It's whoever gets to this amount of distance first. If just because I'm far behind you, if you're not able to finish it, then that is part of. Part of the race. And I said I would finish the race. I don't understand what. We're competing. It's a small race. We're running the 400 meters. The winner of this race is who runs the 400 meters the fastest. It's not who runs 390 meters the fastest and then can't finish the 10. It's who can get to the 400 the fastest. If you can't do that, I don't understand why I'm supposed to slow down and help you out. Right. So that you win, because you were beating me at the time when you fell down. That's kind of more what I was talking about.
Okay. Yeah, I don't like that.
You agree with me, or you don't like my point?
I agree with you. I don't like it. Doesn't piss me off as much as
the high jumper.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this idea that we should carry out what's fair in sports,
right? Yes,
is not a good idea.
Right.
It's if a guy throws an 0-2 pitch right down the middle and the umpire calls it a ball,
yeah,
not saying a fucking word.
Right.
Like, I'm not going back to the dugout like, oh yeah, you should have struck me out. Like, no, you know how many times I've been rung up on something that I didn't think was a strike. Like, I'm gonna take my win here.
Right. Yeah.
Or like like you said, like what if the reason he was beating you, and there's so many what ifs, right? Like what if my aunt had a dick, but what if the reason that person was beating you was because they expended so much more energy than they were supposed to that it rendered them unable to finish the race, and you just did a better job of conserving your energy, and you ultimately just ran a better race.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Then you won.
Yeah, that was my point I was making when we were having the conversation with my family, and I agree with that. I just think people seem to be more into like sportsmanship than into the competitiveness, and I don't know. To me, it sounds good to be like, I love that, the sportsmanship and that stuff, and respecting your opponents and all that stuff. And I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm like, but I don't understand why it's become a bad thing. It seems like to compete against somebody. Yeah. And my take on competing against someone, that's like the ultimate sign of respect towards someone. When I'm competing at my best against you, that is me telling you how much I respect you as an athlete. Is I'm giving you everything I have because I respect you that much as an athlete.
Like people get the warm and fuzzies from the embracing and like people doing nice things for the other guy, which I don't necessarily hate most times, but like the shit that gets me going is like when people are at each other's throats.
Yeah.
Like that those are my warm and fuzzies.
I'll tell you, ultimately the thing I love the most, I would say my favorite like story is like two athletes or whatever just getting it on, just competing at the highest level for like a championship. One person wins, and like after the game or whatnot, you see both of them like later on like embrace and like be like, hey, like great job or something like that. I'm like, I love that shit. There's no animosity. They don't hate each other. They just gave everything they had, and the loser acknowledges, hey, that was a great job on your part. Look forward.
Or even the ones, even when it's heated, like when it's not like like they want to actually kill each other, but like it's heated, like they're not happy with each other,
right.
And then after you get like that grudging, like, yeah, but that was pretty tight.
Yeah.
Like
honestly, that's my favorite part of UFC fights is they come with a beef, they have a big fight, and then afterwards they're like, hey man, I respect you now though. Like I got love for you now because of that. Remember the time where like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady would go against each other, and then one would win, and then you'd see hours later they were in the locker room, like you're just kind of dapping it up. And like
quarterbacks do a really good job of that, I think.
Yeah, like I like that shit. Like that like you said, like that's the warm and fuzzy stuff I like. Is I'm getting after it on the field. I'm trying to give you everything I got, beat the shit out of you, blah blah. Afterwards, then we can dap up and relive kind of how awesome that was and how much we respect each other and good luck going forward and all that type of stuff. But that's after the fact.
We had a recent, I'll just like a little bit, like we had a recent really good intense series against Fargo, and in the first game was like a 14 inning like just staring match, and they had a guy, they had a reliever. Like nobody scored for like we got like they scored like they scored in like the top of the ninth to like, or the top of the eighth to tie it, and then like nobody scored until the 14th. And they had a reliever come in for like 3 innings, and we put him in some tough spots, like bases loaded, 1 out, and he was able to get. And I remember at one point, like I was at second base, and he had just gotten like balled on like a tough pitch and a big at bat, and the way he got the ball, I was just kind of like, like you could see like that he was intense and he was like enjoying it, right. And I was like, fucking like this guy,
yeah.
And then later he got me like later, like Walk led off an inning with a single, and like this was kind of like, okay, here we go, like this is 3 just got on, 4's coming up with a runner on, nobody out, and he got me to roll over into a double play, and he was like pumped, and I was pissed, but at the same time I was also like, yeah, it's still kind of tight though,
yeah.
Yeah. I like shit like that.
And yes, and we agree on that. And I think that's where my point is, like, that is the beauty to me of competition. Is like, that's the like warm and fuzzy stuff to me. I know it doesn't seem like that, but like that's the stuff I'm like, that's why I love competition. I love 2 athletes just giving it their all, just giving it. Obviously only one of them can win, right. Like that's right. Built into it. But like that's the beautiful part. And if you do it long enough, obviously you win a lot too. Obviously, if one person's just losing over and over again, you're not gonna have a very long career. Like that's right, kind of the beauty of it. Like when we face each other, like that's the fun of it. It's like, yeah, whoever wins, like we're still gonna be like, that's all. Like let's keep going, let's do it again, let's keep doing it. Like this is fun. And like the idea of the 3-2 count being like, you want to just call it a push right here? You want to just say we both win right here? It's like, fuck no, this is a big pitch right here. One of us is going to win on this pitch right here. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, why did I show up today?
What's the point of any of this?
All right.
We can call it there. That's all good.
Right. We appreciate you listening, staying with us. Remember to follow along. Remember to do all that shit. Subscribe. All that shit. Make sure you follow along the Milwaukee Milkmen as they're, I'm sure, nearing the end of the regular season, starting to get ready for the playoffs. I'm assuming you can correct me.
I think playoffs. No, yeah. So playoffs start in like the beginning of. No, so like the season runs through like the beginning of September.
Right.
So this is we're in basically the last month here.
So we're in our final stretch here, just kind of fine-tuning some things, and then the fun baseball starts. And make sure to follow along Milwaukee Milkman and support our guy D-Wash, and also support the podcast. That's all I got.
That was beautiful.
All right,
great outro.